Hey there friends, it's Laurie. Today I'm sharing 3 new fall DIYs. I did use mostly Dollar Tree supplies to help keep the cost down, and with that, let's get busy. Getting started, I'm using one of the Dollar Tree wooden hanging shelves, and it measures approximately 13 inches by 5.5 inches. I'm covering it with Dollar Tree fall fabric, making sure to give myself about 2 extra inches around the edges. I'm using a glue stick to attach it, adding a generous amount to the top of the wood. I also made sure to give the edges a heavier coat. I attached the fabric, pressing it into place, then turned it over and attached the edges with my glue gun. As I was attaching the fabric, I made sure to fold the corners in so that I had nice, neat edges. After I finished the first side, I then turned it around and followed the same instructions for the other side. Now that I'm done, I'm placing that aside, and I'm going to be using 2 of the Dollar Tree wooden pallets. They measure just about 6.25 by 4 inches. I'm attaching the 2 together side by side using some E6000. I let the glue set up, and then I used some ivory acrylic paint, and I gave it a coat. I always like that rustic look, so I used a piece of sandpaper and I sanded around the outside edges and in between the wooden slats. I'm adding on the word harvest. I'm using one from this Dollar Tree 3-pack. If you can't find these, you can find similar signs at Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and even sometimes Walmart. I used brown spray paint and I gave mine a coat. Once it dried, I added E6000 onto the back and then centered it on the pallets. I gave the glue some time to set up, and now I'm adding E6000 onto the back supports of the pallets, and I'm centering it on my fabric board. For the hanger, I'm using a 22-inch piece of the Dollar Tree nautical rope. I added some hot glue on both sides on the back of my sign and attached the 2 ends of the hanger. Everything's set up, and now I'm accenting my sign with some Dollar Tree supplies. I'm using 2 fall leaves, attaching one in the top corner and the other in the bottom corner. I'm now adding on 4 small pumpkins, 2 orange and 2 white. I'm using my glue gun and attaching 2 in each corner. I have 3 smaller fall leaves, and I'm attaching these around the pumpkins. You can accent your sign as little or as much as you'd like. I'm adding on 3 small brown leaves, and these came from the Dollar Tree as well. I'm adding on 2 white berry clusters, attaching them between the pumpkins. And now I'm adding on 3 of the fall berry clusters. To finish up, I'm adding on 2 stems of fall accents, and all of these came off of Dollar Tree picks. This was so easy and inexpensive to make, and I do think it looks really high-end for using all Dollar Tree supplies. I'm just popping in to ask, if you're new to my channel, please consider clicking on that little red subscribe button below and leaving me a thumbs up. To all my returning friends, you know I think you are the absolute best, and I can't wait to chat with everyone down below in the comments. To make my apple crate storage, I'm starting with 2 wooden crates from the Dollar Tree, and they each measure approximately 6 by 3½ inches. I'm also using 2 additional crates. They're a smaller version and they measure about 5½ by 3 inches, and these came from the Dollar Tree as well. I'm painting the outside of all 4 with my white acrylic paint, and I'm leaving the inside the natural wood. Most of the white will be hidden, but there are some parts that will show. To make a pattern on the crates, I'm covering them with Dollar Tree clothespins. I'm going to be using a bunch, so I started pulling them apart. I'm making the sides for the crates, and I'm using 18 clothespins. After I pulled them apart, I have 36 individual pieces. I'm organizing them in 4 sections, and I'm placing 9 clothespins side by side. To make the pattern, I'm starting by placing a flat end on the bottom, and then a round end, and then a flat end and a round end, and continuing on. I'm now attaching the 4 sections of 9 with my E6000. After I added on the glue, I did make sure that the top and the bottom edges were even. I let the glue set up, used the same white acrylic paint, and gave each top a coat. I'm attaching 2 on both sides of the largest crates. After I added on the E6000, I made sure that both sides were evenly spaced. I thought this was funny. When I was done, I did push the 2 ends together to make sure that they lined up, and right in the center, there was a clothespin. I'm making a topping and 4 fronts for the 2 larger crates. I painted the clothespin pieces, 4 white, 11 apple red, and 4 golden brown. I first added E6000 to the top, then placed down the pins following the same pattern as the sides, and I alternated the colors. Now that I'm done, I'm adding E6000 to both sides and adding on 2 of the red apple pins. Now that I'm done, I'm finishing up by attaching the last 6 pins on the 2 large crates. I'm using 12 tumbling tower blocks from the Dollar Tree to make the feet and to attach the 2 large crates together. Using my E6000, I attached them into pairs. After the glue set up, I used the same golden brown acrylic paint, and I gave them all a coat. I'm turning over the bottom crate, adding E6000 on the 2 sides and the back. I then attached the 3 feet, making sure they were evenly spaced. I let the glue set up. I turned my crate over and followed the same instructions, adding E6000 on the 2 sides and the back. I then added on the last 3 blocks. I let those set up as well, added on some E6000, and then attached the top crate. I'm adding on a cute little apple. I already had this on hand, and it measures about 2 inches tall, including the stem. To attach it, I added some E6000 to the top and then centered the apple. For the 2 drawers, I used 30 individual clothespin pieces, 15 for each. I followed the same pattern as the side pieces and used my E6000 to attach them together. I let them set up and then used my white acrylic paint to give them a coat. I added a generous amount of the E6000 on the front of one of the smaller crates and attached the panel. I then did the same for the second small crate. For the handles on the drawers, I painted 2 tumbling tower blocks white and then the other 2 with the golden brown acrylic paint. I then used my E6000 and attached the brown and white blocks together. I'm attaching these as handles onto the front of the drawers. I used my ruler to find the center, then I glued it into place. I'm adding on these 2 small wooden apples. I already had these on hand, but sometimes you can find wooden ones at the Dollar Tree to paint, and you can definitely find them online. To attach them, it was easier for me to turn the drawers upside down. I then added E6000 on the back of the apple and the bottom. Then I sat each on the handle. I have 2 daughters and they're both teachers, so I'll definitely be making another set. I was thinking maybe they'd like to put more than one thing in the drawers, so I glued together 8 of the tumbling tower blocks and I made a divider. You can always permanently attach it or just leave it free floating. Now that I'm done, all that's left to do is slide in the drawers. To start my DIY, I'm using a clear glass vase. It comes from the Dollar Tree and it measures about 7 inches tall. I'm going to be covering it and I'm using one of the children's white totes, and this came from the Dollar Tree as well. I removed the handles and there's a little daisy on the front. I removed that as well. I'm using my seam ripper. This thing is so old, I've had it since the 7th grade. I'm using it to pull on the plastic threads that are holding the tote together. I started to pull on the thread and it did come apart fairly easy. Once I had a couple of the rows pulled, it came apart in one long piece. When I was done, there was still some plastic thread attached, so I just pulled at it. It came off easily, and I'm just discarding it because I won't need it. To make it easier to work with, I did wrap it into one piece around my hand. I'm now going to attach it to the vase, but first I'm turning the vase upside down. I added on a dot of hot glue and then attached one end. I wrapped the texture about halfway around and then attached it with another dot of hot glue. I continued wrapping it around. I cut the end where I had started and then attached that to the beginning. I'm now adding on my next piece. I added hot glue onto the fabric where I had ended, slightly overlapping my first piece. I continued adding on some hot glue, slightly overlapping the fabric as I worked my way around. As I continued on, I added a little hot glue here and there to help hold the pieces in place. If you want, you can always cut all of the pieces ahead of time. I just ended up doing it this way. I continued working my way around, adding on the hot glue and slightly overlapping the fabric. I came to the end of the fabric from the tote and I was one strip short. Luckily, it had come with 2 straps, so I used one of those and covered the end of the vase. Now that I'm done, I'm going to add on some accents, and the best thing about this vase is you can use it for any season. Because it's fall, I'm adding on some sunflowers. I'm using some that I already had on hand. I chose 2 large and 1 small, and I'm also adding on 3 leaves. I had these on hand as well. I added hot glue to the front of the vase and then added all 3 of the leaves. With that complete, I added on more hot glue and attached the 2 larger sunflowers at an angle. I then attached the smaller sunflower in between the 2 larger. I'm using some of the Dollar Tree black and white gingham ribbon, and I'm making a simple bow. I cut the 2 ends off at an angle. I added hot glue up under the 2 larger sunflowers and attached the bow. Now that it's complete, you can add in some flowers or one of the Dollar Tree LED candles. Turn it on, add it inside, and not only will this work as a pretty fall vase, but a beautiful candle holder. Here we are at the end of the video, and I really hope you enjoyed making these new fall DIYs with me. If you're new to my channel and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to come back and hang out with her again, don't forget to click that little red subscribe button below. If you're looking for more crafting videos, I have a ton. I will leave the playlists at the end of this video, and you can also check them out in my description. I hope you're having a great day. Stay safe, and until next time, bye everybody.